The Menticide Manual. Promiscuity. By Thorsten J. Pattberg. There must never be a truthful science about female promiscuity in our nation. We either keep lying and shall prevail, or we spill the truth and must collapse. Reports the American Sex Survey 2004, ABC News. Overall, women, in the U.S., report an average of 6 sex partners in their lifetimes, men, 20. And this, from Durex UK, men, worldwide, have had more sexual partners than women, 12.4 compared to 7.2. Or this one, from Short News in Germany, the French Ministry of Health found in a nationwide survey, that on average men had 11.6 sex partners, while women had 4.4. Tyrone Thundercock. The above headlines are real. They were collected in 2004. I suspect that researchers back then were morons. For sex, you need a male and a female. Homosexuals were excluded in all those polls, by the way. So, men worldwide cannot have more sexual partners than women. It is impossible. No Menticide manual can be complete without a chapter on the deliberate manipulation of research data. And the choice of female promiscuity is just hilarious. The following bombshell will save a lot of our brother's life. Realize this: if lies are the weapons of journalists, statistics are the weapons of researchers. Warning: there will be ugly crying. She doesn't know why she should be crying. 3, 2, 1. But she's gonna cry. In all civilizations, in all societies man ever built, in all our great storytelling, the entrance of a strong female heralds wipeout, destruction and downfall. Draupadi brought down the Pandava brothers. Kriemhild caused the death of 3 kings. Eva kicked us out of Eden. Helen was carried off to Troy, and that was the end of Troy. Wrote esteemed poet Rudyard Kipling. But when hunter meets with husbands, each confirms the other's tale. The female of the species is more deadly than the male. Females are the reasons men strive. If we can't impress them, we die. We worship them, we fight to death for them. But one thing we must not allow them: at one point we must draw a red line: do not corrupt our science. In any country and among most groups, if an equal number of males and females were asked about the number of their sex partners, researchers will religiously report an average imbalance of 3 to 1 in favor of the males. All researchers do that. Those who do not, are disappeared. Sure, the ratio varies. Sometimes the ratio is given 4 to 1 or just 2 to 1. But it is always the same pussy slayer motto: men on average have more sexual partners than women have. Let that sink in. Some members of the public understandably have difficulties with the maths. That ratio just doesn't add up. Feminists intuitively agree with the scientist researchers that men are pigs and that we are born hunters, predators really, and thus must have far more sexual partners than women who sit at home and fix the water irrigation system, or whatever. But then of course, maths is compulsory at school. Basic analogy and equations. So even the most dim-witted members of the public try to do the maths again, and despair. Here is what they equate in their heads: for every sexual encounter, exactly 1 male and 1 female is required, so the ratio must be 1 to 1. It cannot be 4 to 1. Capiche? Do you understand? Becky, look at her butt. Scientific researchers, all Ivy League grads with colossal heads, cannot be wrong, obviously, and neither can the scientific journals and media that report the science. They would never lie to us. That said, we still got a lot of ground people practicing cultural anthropology with no conflict of interest, who suspect foul play with the numbers. Says Becky, look at her butt, men are lying pigs and inflate their numbers, do. Tyrone Thundercock answers, those bitches divide by 3. Next, we have some halfwits with strange PhD degrees in evolutionary psychology, who immediately talk about long-term versus short-term mating strategies and the patriarchy. Says one Dr. Med, diddling, I concur that a ratio of 3 to 1 in favor of males reflects the entitlement and sexism in men, while the inverse ratio 1 to 3 in favor of females proves female oppression and victimhood. And? I don't understand that the ratio must be 1 to 1. Most women are virgins. And some women need no sex to have kids at all, like Maria of Bethlehem. Suddenly, our male activist has an epiphany. Says Tyrone Thundercock, I know, those bitches lie. You know? Sheila's a cobbler machine and Becky's everyone's public doorknob. This could actually be a lead. What if the science researchers asked 50 women, and they also asked pretty hot and tempting Selma and Louise, and those 2 cream gobblers plowed through 327 bojangles between them? Those 2 public buses would distort all orthodox data and violate all public assumptions about sex partners. Laughs Becky, look at her butt. So, pretty hot and tempting Selma and Louise were excluded from the science, I knew it. I see Dr. Met, diddling is waving his hands, he has something to say? Wait, they can't do that. That is basic equation. If you subtract 327 from the right-hand side of an equation, you must also subtract that from the left-hand side. Becky, look at her butt, ha ha, those biggity boys and Casper the Friendly Ghosts only had higher numbers because of Selma and Louise. That cracked me. So funny. Maybe we should pedal back and talk about 2004 science. Most sophomore students are shocked when they start their psychology major at the University of Virgin Mothers and discover that Psychology 1.0 means statistics, statistics and statistics. All those fun Freudian, Jungian and Rate My Narcissism seminars are post-bachelor modules, non-important. Statistics is key, the manipulation of numbers. All statistics are man-made. The scientists collect data and manipulate that data to demonstrate exactly what their paymasters want them to. It is evident, from the crazy 4 to 1 or 3 to 1 imbalance in sexual partners between males and females, that the statistics were fantasy, throughout the centuries in fact, so in favor of females, our daughters had to be coy and angelic. Meanwhile, males, our sons, had to be indirectly praised as landsharks and chicken slayers and whatnot. Tyrone Thundercock, Becky look at her butt and Dr. Med. Diddling had the right intuition, but were easily tricked anyway. That's because the scientists who fabricated the statistics did not delete pretty hot, and tempting Selma and Louise per se, who clearly distorted the average and thus would have misrepresented the population as a whole. Instead, the scientists, the psychologists I mean, did not give us the mean but the median of their data. In statistics, we can easily manipulate any set of data by changing the way how we determine the average. The average is not what most people think it is. In fact, there are many averages, the most common are, the mean, the median, the mode, the ratio and the range. If we take all the sexual partners of males and females in the world, excluding homosexual encounters, and then divide them by the number of people, we get an exact ratio of 1 to 1, because every sexual partner of the male is also the sexual partner of the female. But this is shocking. Certainly not your daughters, right? A few very promiscuous females become pretty hot and tempting Selmas and Louises, between 10 to 20% of all females. And those females are very, very sexually active. And we mean not just obvious sex workers but a lot of Jezebels and single moms and validation seekers are responsible for a significant rise of sexual partners across the nation and for the vast majority, if not all men. Dr. Med, diddling. This is abhorrent. Snaps Dr. Med, diddling, you can't publish that? The statistics must speak politically correct, men are more promiscuous, certainly more than women. And so tens of thousands of science news, all misleading, are published every year, in propaganda. Repetition is key, to celebrate the harvesting of dick and still uphold the absurd idea that men on average have more sexual partners than women. They cannot. And oh boy, is this apprising the bull contest. For example, the rulers of France want their males to perform better than English males. The English report on average a 9-to-3 male-female ratio, so the French scientists will magically produce a 12-to-4 ratio in France. And when large condom producers such as Above Durex UK started to report international consumer data in 2004, a lot of health ministries discreetly ordered more condoms than they needed, just to look better on the global condom market index. Do not even try to find those 2004 statistics on the internet in 2021. All is censored now. Shadow banned. The old propaganda of man bad, woman victim is still alive, but is drowned in information about the health of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. Prostitution is now legalized in most of Europe, and sleeping around is encouraged, even for normlos. Yet, despite rising promiscuity, no nation to our knowledge has yet confessed that a powerful group of promiscuous females is responsible for the greater good of a lot of males. And no matter what they tell you about the numbers of sex partners, the ratio is 1-to-1, and it will always be 1-to-1. Hopeless. They lie to us every single day, don't they? The media. Scientists. There is just no honesty, nowhere. Even simple observations about male and female sexuality and their numbers of sex partners. They must screw with the numbers. Oh, but men have 3 times more sex partners, didn't you know? Yes, and more people fit into a public bus than a Ford V8 SUV excursion. They just cannot be honest about female promiscuity. Because the truth is, females can have as many sex partners as they want, and many want exactly just that. And those endless male braggarts with high numbers. They probably parked in the same parking lot.